The Stories of Craexus. Volume 1. Kael Arckitos. The damp earth clung to Kael's fur as he lumbered through the undergrowth. His keen ears, honed by years spent navigating the unforgiving wilds of Svezira, picked up a faint tremor in the otherwise peaceful symphony of the Elfhin woods. It wasn't the skittering of a forest creature, nor the rustle of wind through leaves. It was a primal sound, a cry laced with desperation, that sent a jolt through his massive frame. He wasn't built for silent movement. The Anthros' imposing physique, a hulking combination of a bear's torso and head grafted onto powerful human legs, made him a constant source of startled whispers amongst the Elfhin. But months of solitude had taught him the language of the forest, and this cry spoke of something more than a startled fawn, or a territorial squabble. Following the sound, his massive paws barely disturbing the soft earth, Kael emerged into a sun-dappled clearing. The sight that greeted him sent a surge of adrenaline through his veins. A slender Elfhin, her emerald eyes blazing with defiance, was locked in a desperate struggle with 4 hulking bandits. The bandits, clad in leather and wielding wickedly barbed axes, pressed their advantage, their faces twisted with avarice. The Elfhin, though fighting with surprising skill, was clearly outmatched and outnumbered. Kael didn't hesitate. With a roar that echoed through the trees, a sound both terrifying and strangely comforting, he charged. The bandits, startled by the monstrous apparition that erupted from the undergrowth, turned their attention to him. Kael slammed into one with the force of a battering ram, sending him sprawling. The others, momentarily stunned, found themselves staring down the maw of an enraged bear. The fight was short, brutal, and mercifully one-sided. The remaining bandits, whimpering, fled into the undergrowth with fear fueling their legs. The Elfhin, pushing herself to her feet with a wince, met his gaze. Her emerald eyes, wide with a mixture of fear and gratitude, held a spark that resonated deep within him. It was a look he recognized, the warrior spirit, honed by hardship and fueled by a burning purpose. Relief washed over him, not just from the victory, but from a deeper sense of belonging he hadn't known he craved.
"Thank you,"
she said, her voice barely a whisper. Her words were elfish, but the sincerity behind them needed no translation. Kael rumbled a low sound in his chest, a sound that fell somewhere between a sigh and a chuckle. Unable to speak Elfish fluently yet, he pointed a massive finger at the fleeing bandits.
"Didn't seem like much of a fight,"
he rumbled, his voice surprisingly deep and gravelly. The Elfin's lips twitched, a hint of a smile breaking through the strain on her face.
"Seams can be deceiving,"
she replied in accented common, her voice gaining strength.
"Especially for those who underestimate a girl."
Kael snorted.
"Seems you weren't in trouble after all."
She raised an eyebrow, amusement flickering in her emerald eyes.
"And who might you be, my unexpected savior?"
"The name's Kael,"
he rumbled, offering a curt nod of his head.
"Kael,"
she repeated, testing the name on her tongue.
"Well met, Kael. Though next time, perhaps a roar a little less terrifying wouldn't go amiss."
A surprised laugh escaped Kael, a sound that rumbled through the clearing like distant thunder.
"Effective nonetheless,"
he countered with a twinkle in his eye. The Elfhin, a smile now fully formed on her lips, extended a slender hand towards him.
"Effective indeed. But enough talk for now. It seems we have both escaped immediate danger. Perhaps we can find a safer place to continue this conversation."
The warmth of the white feather bar, thick with the scent of roasted boar and ale, was a welcome change from the biting cold wind outside. Amara, Her emerald eyes sparkling with amusement, nudged a tankard of ale towards Kael.
Remember that first meeting in Elfhin Wood?
She asked, a sly grin tugging at her lips.
Took you a while to realize I wasn't exactly a damsel in distress, wouldn't you say?
Kael chuckled, a low rumble that vibrated through the wooden table.
4 bandits, Amara. 4. And you were outnumbered. Outnumbered and probably injured. A little help never hurts, even for a fierce elfin warrior.
The patrons of the White Feather, a motley crew of humans and dwarves, grew quiet, ears perked at the discussion of the unlikely duo.
Injured, yes.
Amara admitted, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper.
But I wouldn't have fallen if I hadn't underestimated the reach of that oafish bandit with the axe.
Kael snorted, the sound echoing through the bar.
Right.
He rumbled, amusement dancing in his eyes.
All my fault, of course.
Well,
Amara said, stretching out the word dramatically.
Perhaps yours for making such a dramatic entrance. Scared the wits out of both of us, you did.
A few patrons at the bar chuckled, emboldened by the friendly banter.
Effective nonetheless.
Kael countered, a playful wink creasing his brow. Amara raised her tankard in a toast, a mischievous glint in her emerald eyes.
Effective indeed. Here's to unexpected encounters, unlikely friendships, and the most terrifying roars in the elfin world.
Kael met her toast with a resounding clang of his own tankard.
To unlikely mates.
He rumbled, a warmth spreading through his chest. They both took long swallows, the warmth of the ale spreading through them. Kael fell silent for a moment, his gaze drifting back to the memory of that fateful day. The scent of pine needles, the flash of emerald eyes, the unexpected connection that had sparked between them.
2 years ago.
He finally said, his voice a low rumble.
Hard to believe it's been that long.
The barkeep, a burly human with a missing tooth and a twinkle in his eye, leaned down towards them.
You too, with your stories of fighting off bandits and mythical beasts. You're becoming legends around here. What grand adventure brings you to the White Feather this time?
Amara and Kael exchanged a glance, a silent conversation passing between them.
Just passing through, barkeep.
Amara said with a smile.
Just passing through.
The barkeep grinned, wiping his hands on a greasy apron.
Well, you're always welcome here, heroes or not. Now, another round for the legendary pair?
Amara and Kael shared another look, this time filled with the warmth of companionship and the thrill of the unknown path ahead. Raising their tankards in unison, they echoed back.
Another round. Sounds good.
The barkeep, a burly human with a handlebar mustache that rivaled Kael's fur in thickness, scurried away with a grin. The patrons, emboldened by the shared laughter, leaned in closer, eager to hear more tales of the unlikely duo. The whispers intensified, a mix of curiosity and cautious admiration swirling around Amara, the elfin warrior, and Kael, the imposing bear man. Suddenly, the murmur of the crowd died down as abruptly as a snuffed candle. The heavy oak doors of the White Feather creaked open, grinding harshly against the stone floor. A hush fell over the room, thick and suffocating. A large humanoid figure filled the doorway, silhouetted against the biting wind whipping through the street. Even from a distance, its presence was a palpable weight, radiating a dark, unsettling energy. It was a monster from the Sunderlands, a fearsome region down south notorious for its monstrous denizens. It was tall and skeletal, its wiry frame cloaked in tattered black robes. Razor-sharp claws glinted menacingly from its long, skeletal thin fingers, and its hooded head remained shrouded in shadow, hiding whatever horrors lay beneath. The air crackled with a sense of imminent danger. The patrons of the White Feather, their faces drained of color, shrank back in their seats, their gazes glued to the monstrous figure. Monsters were harbingers of ill tidings, and their presence in a human settlement rarely boded well. Amidst the suffocating silence and rising terror, a single voice sliced through the tension. It was Amara, her voice uncharacteristically light, laced with a hint of amusement, that rang out like a live blade cutting through the heavy air.
Dremsey!
Amara shouted, her voice brimming with glee. Before anyone could react, she pushed past the stunned patrons and launched herself at the monstrous figure in a joyous embrace. The figure, towering over Amara with skin like polished obsidian and glowing red eyes, seemed momentarily taken aback by the Elfhin's enthusiasm. It lumbered awkwardly, its immense claws brushing a nearby table, sending mugs and cutlery clattering to the floor. A low rumble, almost like a hesitant purr, emanated from its chest. The effect was surreal. The monstrous figure, seemingly caught off guard by this unexpected display of affection, hesitated for a moment before awkwardly returning the hug. Its immense size dwarfed Amara's slender frame, but its movements were surprisingly gentle. Kael slowly lowered his tankard, a single eyebrow arched in disbelief.
Dremsey,
He rumbled, his voice thick with surprised joy.
by the great pillars of Norda, you came.
The barkeep, a veteran pragmatist, cleared his throat, a wary smile plastered on his face.
Well then,
He said, his voice slightly higher than usual.
another round for the unlikely reunion perhaps. On the house, of course.
A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the room, the tension finally breaking. Embark on a heart-pounding adventure with an unlikely fellowship. Dremsey Taoramaga, a stoic Onhee warrior, finds his loyalty tested when a monstrous threat engulfs his homeland. On the brink of defeat, he's saved by a curious duo, Amara Argentstar, an Elfhin warrior whispered to be a child of fate and prophecy, and Kael Arckitos, a bearman from the distant land of the Anthros. Together, this unlikely fellowship embarks on a quest that will take them beyond treacherous places, where ferocious beasts and nightmarish creatures lurk. Their journey will forge new alliances, test their courage, and unravel ancient secrets that could change the fate of the lands. Join Dremsey, Amara, and Kael as they face thrilling battles, test the scales of fates, forge unlikely bonds, and fight for a future brighter than even the stars. Will Amara fulfill her destiny? Will Kael overcome his tragic secrets? Can Dremsey live up to the tenets of his honor? Is their fellowship the one destined to overcome the darkness that threatens the world? Subscribe to hear this story unfold. The World of Craexus, a tabletop role-playing game. The rules and game manuals along with the storybooks are available at drivethrurpg.com.